Welcome back to Campfire Whispers, your daily fix of horror stories, unsolved mysteries, and straight-up unbelievable content. My name is Eki, and today I'm sharing an urban legend based on real events, the Goatman. The forest near Prince George's County, Maryland, was the kind of place that swallowed sound. No matter how loud you spoke, your voice seemed to vanish into the heavy canopy, where the trees stood tall like ancient sentinels and the ground was littered with damp leaves, tangled roots, and secrets long buried beneath the moss. The sun rarely reached the thick underbrush, and the smell of earth and decay was constant, like the forest itself was breathing. Marcus had heard about it through a dark corner of the internet, a forum dedicated to urban legends and real-life hauntings. The kind of place where thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts traded stories about encounters with the unknown. He didn't believe in monsters or ghosts, but he did believe in good content. His YouTube channel, still small but growing, needed fresh material, and the legend of the Goatman was infamous, perfect for drawing attention. When he convinced 3 of his college friends, Elena, Ronnie, and Jay, to come along for a weekend camping trip to track down the Goatman, he promised them adventure, maybe even a viral video. None of them were really believers either, but they were curious and eager for a break from their routine lives. They packed light but smart: tents, rations, flashlights, camera gear, and a drone. The trailhead was remote, nestled behind a cluster of farms and old gravel roads, a good 20 minutes off the nearest paved highway. By the time they parked and began hiking into the woods, the sun was already dipping behind the hills, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the mossy ground. People say he was a scientist, Ronnie muttered as he brushed through the thick brush, snapping a twig underfoot. Some sort of agricultural researcher who tried to splice human and goat DNA. The experiment went wrong, turned him into a half-goat monstrosity. That's why he haunts these woods, angry and twisted. Elena, ever the skeptic, rolled her eyes. Others say he's not man at all, some kind of demon, a forest spirit older than the trees, that he's summoned through blood sacrifices and dark rituals. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They say if you hear his hooves, you're already marked. Jay laughed and waved a stick in the air. Well, I didn't bring any goats, so we should be good. Marcus, walking ahead with his camera rolling, didn't laugh. He felt the woods were already watching them. The air grew cooler with every step deeper into the forest. The trees thickened, and an unnatural silence fell. No birdsong, no rustle of small animals, just the crunch of their footsteps and the distant whisper of the wind through pine needles. By the time they found a clearing to set up camp, the sunlight had faded to a dusty gold. They built a fire pit surrounded by stones, pitched their tents in a loose circle, and shared a simple meal of canned chili and bread warmed over the flames. That first night, stories were told. Old ghost tales, local myths, and of course, the Goatman legend. The fire flickered, casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to twist into shapes. Elena hesitated before sharing a story she'd heard from her aunt's neighbor, who had vanished in these woods years ago. He was hiking alone, she said quietly. His car was found at the trailhead, engine still running. No sign of him. Police thought maybe an animal attack. But the strangest part? His phone was left behind recording. The last thing on it was his voice whispering, "He looked like me." The group fell silent, the crackling fire suddenly seeming too loud in the heavy dark. Later, after the others had crawled into their tents, Marcus stayed awake. He adjusted his camera, trying to capture as much footage as possible. Then, from the shadows beyond the firelight, he heard it. A low, rhythmic thump. At first, he told himself it was a deer or a branch falling. But then came a sound like breathing, deep, slow, and labored just beyond the flickering light. He raised his flashlight and scanned the darkness. Nothing, but the feeling stayed, crawling up his spine like icy fingers. That night, all of them heard something strange. Elena said she heard a voice calling her name from outside her tent, soft, pleading, almost like a child's cry. Ronnie reported a faint scratching against his tent canvas. Jay swore he saw a figure, hunched and towering, just beyond the tree lean, its eyes reflecting faintly in the moonlight. Morning came, but the sense of unease did not lift. Circling their campsite were hoof prints, deep, cloven, much larger than any deer or goat native to the area. The prints formed a ring, almost like a trap, enclosing their tents. Ronnie laughed nervously, some local playing a prank, but none of them saw any other hikers or campers on the trail. As the second day passed, the forest seemed to close in around them. The birds vanished and the breeze died. The shadows deepened beneath the trees. That night, the fire was their only comfort, but the breathing returned, this time closer. Marcus aimed his camera toward the edge of the firelight. Then Jay screamed. A figure appeared, slowly stepping into the clearing. It was tall, too tall, and hunched. Its skin was mottled, grayish-brown, blending almost perfectly with the bark of the trees. Its legs ended in cloven hooves, and its arms were thick and sinewy, tipped with sharp claws. But the face was the worst. Goat-like, twisted, with wild, tangled hair and glowing red eyes that burned like coals. When it opened its mouth, the sound wasn't a growl or roar. It was a twisted mimicry of human laughter. A broken, cracked sound that made Marcus's stomach turn. The creature didn't attack. It simply turned and vanished into the woods. They didn't sleep that night. By dawn, Jay was gone. His tent still zipped shut, sleeping bag untouched. No signs of struggle. No tracks leading away. Only his jacket hung from a low tree branch, perfectly clean, as if placed with cold intent. Panic set in. They tried to leave, but every trail seemed to loop back to camp. The forest had become a maze. GPS devices flickered and failed. Their phones lost signal. Marcus tried to keep calm, but his camera was shaking. On the third night, the creature returned. It no longer hid in shadows. It watched from the darkness, standing just beyond the firelight. But this time, it looked different. It wore Jay's clothes, his familiar hoodie, his sneakers. Its face was pale and smooth, but the eyes betrayed it, too wide, unblinking, too bright to be human. It mimicked his voice perfectly. "Elena, Ronnie, let me in." The voice was desperate, glitching like a broken recording. "Please, I'm cold. I'm scared." They huddled inside their tents, clutching makeshift weapons, sticks sharpened on stones, knives Ronnie had brought for camping. The creature stayed just at the fire's edge, never crossing the boundary. It vanished with the dawn, but Elena snapped. She bolted into the forest, screaming Jay's name. Ronnie chased after her, his voice cracking with fear. Marcus stayed behind, paralyzed with terror. Hours passed. Ronnie returned alone. Blood stained his sleeves. His eyes were hollow, his mind shattered. She ran toward it. He whispered, voice barely audible. She went to him. They were trapped. The forest no longer felt like nature. It was a prison. At night, the fire died. Darkness swallowed them. Voices filled the blackness. Whispers of their lost friends, calling their names, luring them into the shadows. The creature came again, this time wearing Elena's face. Its mouth stretched impossibly wide in a grotesque smile. Ronnie stood and followed it silently into the woods. He never came back. Marcus was alone. The whispers became screams. The forest pulsed around him alive. He ran without direction, collapsed on a deserted road hours later, rescued by a passing trucker. His mind fractured. The footage? Blurry, mostly darkness, but the voices clear and chilling. Even now, he hears them, outside his window, calling his name. And sometimes, in the mirror, he sees a smile that isn't his own. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Join me next time for more unbelievable tales on Campfire Whispers.